Today we are going to paint these flowers. They are on page 196 of this book. This is the Italian version of the flower color guide, so maybe the page number is not exactly this one, but should be around here. And this is what we are going to paint. This is not a tutorial, I'm just thinking aloud and I'm just sharing what my thinking process is like when I paint. So let's get started. Here are the flowers that I'm going to paint, and here is my sketch. There is really nothing wrong about sketching. Mostly it helps to help you decide where to put the flowers so that everything fits. So here you can see they are just rough outline of the flowers. So the first thing that I have to do is to choose what color to use. So let me see. They are quite small, so I'm going to use maybe a size 12 brush. Or maybe this one is a little bit too big. I think I'm going to use this calligraphy brush. So the first flower that I'm going to paint is this one up here. You can see it's a yellowish greenish color, a very pale one. So I'm going to pick maybe lemon yellow, a very pale one, but not too pale, because when your paper dries, the color will get lighter. So and a little bit green. And then I keep on with the next flower. And I always keep a swatch nearby to know what color to use. And this yellow, it looks like, I think, the fifth one. So I'm going to wash my brush. The fifth one, okay, is a lemon yellow. But it is too yellowish. I'm going to add just a tiny bit of this one to make it slightly more warmer. It's still not warm enough. So I'm just filling out the shape of it. And if you look closer, on this part of the flower is the more greenish and darker in color. Maybe we can add a little bit of green and brown. Make it slightly darker. And on the other side, the colors are warmer. So I'm going to take a warmer yellow and just drop in some warmer color. Now on to the next flower, which is this one. I'm going to from the lightest to the darkest, so I'm going to paint this small flower. Again, this is a warm yellow. And a brownish reddish color on this side of it. You see this color is not quite right, but I'm not going to go back, because the more I go back, the worse it will become. So I'm just putting on the shadow underneath, mid-mod green. And I'm also not being careful to stay within the lines. Again, the sketch is just to help me to decide more or less where to place my strokes. I'm not going to paint within the lines. So here I'm going to paint these three flowers. They are more or less the same color. Going to use this maple yellow light. It is not yellowish enough. I think I need a little bit more yellow color. You know, when you placed your color on the paper next to other colors that you have already put, it's easy to judge whether the color is correct or not. You see there is a tiny bud here. I'm going to paint over it anyway. And then I'm going to the next flower. And the one underneath, more lemon yellow down here because it's cooler. And more greenish color. At the bottom of it. Now you see there is a puddle over here and over here. I have to dry it up because if I don't dry it up later, there will be marks. So I'm going to take a tissue paper and just pick up the excess color. And now I'm going to go back while it is still wet to add darker colors. So here I'm going to add a darker green. It is always better to do in step instead of, you see it's too green, I have to add more yellow and a little bit of brown. Now it's better. Because if you go in too deep, it's difficult to take out the color. Well, if you paint too light, in the worst case, you have to go back and darken it. It's still a trial and error for me to pick the right color. But flowers are relatively forgiving. You see, I have added some dark colors, but they are not dark enough. But I can't go back right now because it's too wet. So I'm going to move to the next flower. I'm going to paint this flower. So take a little bit of green. And this green is too green. I need to neutralize it with a little bit of a brownish color. Don't remember what it is. It's just some dirty colors on my palette. It's way too brown. I need it to be greener. So I make it greener and just fill in. Just trying to paint as best as I can instead of following all the petals because there are going to be too many petals. And here I'm going back here and I need to wash my brush and take a brownish color. I think what I was using a gold ochre and darken it. Also here I need to darken it and make it greener because you see this petal is has a greenish tone, so I need to make it greener. And I think my paper is too wet. So when your paper is too wet, the best thing to do is to stop. But I really don't like, well, I really should stop. All my brush is too wet. Either my paper is too wet or my brush is too wet. So I'm drying it a little bit more and try again. If it still doesn't work, it means that I should wait. And probably that would be the best thing to do. Anyway, let's try again. Yes, I can get some color on it. Actually, I'm not even looking at whether I have cool light or warm light. I'm just trying to paint what I see in the photo. Maybe it's a good idea to decide once and for all, but usually I don't plan ahead. A little bit of green. Okay, to the next flower. This one is very wet still, so I'm going to paint this flower. You see there is some more orange placed here, so I'm going to pick a little bit of red and paint in sort of a C shape. But I'm not painting a C shape because it's the formula or something like that. I'm painting in this shape because it's what I see in the photo. You should always look at your photo and decide what to do. You're just trying to approximate what you see in the photo. And now, since the flowers are pretty wet, I'm going to paint the stems. For the stems, actually, I find it the easiest to paint with a filbert brush. You hold the filbert brush at the side of it, so you're using the narrow side of it, and it will be easier to paint a relatively straight stem. Of course, not every flower has a straight stem, but in this case, they are quite straight. So, this is a bluish green, so I'm taking a little bit of cerulean blue to mix with the green. Don't want it to be too green, you know. So I'm going to paint this time. If I touch the paddle, the color will bleed into it, like here. Try it up. You can either leave it this way or dry it up. It really depends on your choice. Just keep on painting here. Maybe I think it's a good idea to wait, but again, I really don't like waiting. I would rather make a mess instead of waiting. Another stem. You want to make sure that your stems are dark enough, and here they are not, because you don't want to go back many times. Every time you go back, you're going to make them thicker. And so I'm painting all the dark stems, so I have got 1, 2, and 3. The third one, adding a little bit more blue. In the photos, you see this stem disappeared, so I don't like it, so I'm going to let it keep on somewhere. It just doesn't make sense that it disappeared. So now I'm going to the lighter ones. So I'm adding more yellow to the green, using the same green to let it blend. Here and keep on. And here I've got a tiny bud here, so also painting the shape of it. And the stem. And here I have got another bud, but I'm not sure if it is too wet to paint over. I'm just going to do the stem. And there is also a tiny one. For this tiny one, this brush is not going to work, so I'm going to keep a round brush. This is a number 4 round brush. And where is it going? In the photo, you can't see where the stem is going. You have to make it up. But you can also leave it unresolved. But I prefer to make it up. And then I have got all the stems. And I want to add in this one. Since it is not yet dry, I want to make sure that my brush is dry. So I'm drying it. And then I'm going to go back and fill in the color. When you paint on a wet area, make sure that your brush is not wetter than what you are painting into. So it is all relative. If this area is wet, you want your brush to be drier than that, but not so dry that it looks too intense. And now I'm going to add in the leaves. I don't understand what this is, so I'm not going to add it. What you don't understand, your viewer is not likely to understand, so I think it's better to leave out things that you personally don't understand what they are. It's just a choice. I'm going to add in these leaves. You see the color I'm using is too green, it should be more yellowish. But instead of going back to correct it, it's just an exercise, so I will just pay more attention next time. By the way, I'm doing this as an exercise. I'm not trying to make a painting out of it. Also because I am copying the reference completely. I'm not adding anything of mine. If it were a painting, I would paint for my own image. And probably I would be planning and doing many more things. But it would get boring, so I'm just painting. I'm just playing with color. Now I think that the best thing to do is to leave it to dry completely before keeping on. But there is one thing, this stem is way too light comparing to the reference, so I am going to make it darker before I leave it to dry. And try to squint your eyes and look at the values and correct some obvious mistakes. Because you don't want to do too many layers. Not that, I mean, it's not a bad thing by itself, just that I think it will take too much time for my taste. So if possible, I try to do things in two washes and no more. And you see this is too dark, so I'm going to lift some color, wash my brush, dry it, and lift the color. And you see here is quite, I feel it is quite empty, even if it is the same as the reference photo. So I'm going to add maybe a small leaf. You can always change something. And here there is the reddish color, so I'm going to add it now because I want it to blend with the rest instead of having a sharp edge. This time is still too light, so I'm going to go back and add some more color. And the band of this leaf is also too light, so I'm going to go back and add more color. Now I'm going to put this piece outside to dry, so it dries faster under direct sunlight.